New remarks by White House Chief of Staff John Sununu raise new doubts about whether he'll keep his job. And the Congress holds a Saturday session on highways, the economy, and defense. This is the CBS Evening News. And this is Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. The White House press office will say only that the president is spending the weekend at Camp David with his family. But Washington is rife with rumors tonight that the president is engaged in intense discussion with friends and advisors on everything from a possible shakeup of the White House staff to developing a new game plan for dealing with the economy. According to several sources, the behind-the-scenes discussions have also included the current and future roles of White House Chief of Staff John Sununu, who's already generated a steady stream of public comment. Jim Stewart has the latest.
The latest flap over his chief of staff erupted even as the president tried to get away from criticism of his economic policy by heading to Camp David for the weekend. This time it was Sununu's assertion on a talk show that it was all his boss's idea during a speech on the economy last week to include some off-the-cuff remarks about lowering credit card interest rates.
I'd frankly like to see the credit card rates down. I believe that would help stimulate the consumer and get the consumer confidence moving again.
But it didn't. In fact, Wall Street analysts later blamed investor fear over that comment for a 120-point plunge by the stock market, just when the economy can least afford it. Who to blame for the misstep?
Did you write those comments for the president at the last minute and in so doing elude the normal speech drafting process?
Absolutely not.
How did it get in?
President ad-libbed.
He ad-libbed?
Sure.
For any president's top aide to let the boss take the heat is unheard of, says David Gergen, former White House Director of Communications.
A good staff person's first responsibility is to protect the boss. And when he violates that rule, he's out the door.
Which is exactly where Mr. Sununu's growing number of enemies inside the Republican Party hope he ends up. With the election less than a year away, they blame the chief of staff for a lack of direction, resulting in the president's drop in the polls and the impression that the administration's economic policies are floundering.
The anti-Sununu campaign in this city has been rapidly gaining momentum over the last few weeks, and this latest flap, it will only add more fire, more fury.
The president is said to be deciding on who will be the key players in his re-election campaign. The big question here is where Mr. Sununu would fit into those plans, or even if he fits in at all. Jim Stewart, CBS News, the White House.
Negotiators from the House and Senate are working this weekend, hoping to put the final touches on a massive highway building program, a program that's taken on a whole new dimension as the economy has turned sour. Because what started out as a program to build roads has become instead a program to get people back to work. And that's our Washington notebook, using an old remedy to create new jobs.
We went over to Congress not too long ago, and we actually saw that the federal government was not going to be able to jumpstart the economy, that things were not going to happen.
But in his weekly talk radio show, the governor of Maryland had some good news for his listeners who are worried about unemployment figures inching upward, a new program to put people to work.
What we're trying to do is to get all construction projects that the state will be doing in the months to come to start them right now. The response has just been fine.
So it was extra good news that Congress, too, rolled up its shirt sleeves and worked into the night to tidy up the $151 billion surface transportation bill, with the goal of getting the president to sign it by Thanksgiving. Suddenly, transportation has become synonymous with jobs.
It would be fair of the administration to think that, my God, if we close down this program, another 6 million people would lose their work, and that's true.
The White House had threatened to veto the bill, partly because it extended a 5-cent hike in the gas tax and did not include enough payments from the states. But the prospect of creating new jobs, at least 2 million by some estimates, was something the administration finally could not say no to.
We have to have a bill. I think everybody understands that we have to have a bill. We're losing jobs and we're losing economic benefit because we don't have a bill.
That is a lesson learned decades ago when men found work during the Depression through a series of public works programs. The new transportation bill is being hailed as just as big a landmark. It creates thousands upon thousands of jobs and more.
It's jobs, it's rebuilding the infrastructure, it's dealing with energy conservation, it's dealing with cleaning up the air, and it increases our national productivity. This is a surefire, absolute benefit piece of legislation for the country.
Congress is hoping that action on the transportation bill will garner some goodwill from a public more in the mood these days to throw the rascals out of office than expect them to solve problems. Maryland's governor, for one, says the timing could not be better.
Now, what that means, many small firms that would have gone bankrupt without any business, larger firms that would have been cutting back on their force, that would have had more people on the unemployment rolls, the welfare rolls, we may be able to head some of that off.
And in a related development, the Senate today finally passed a new $270 billion spending bill for the Pentagon that preserves most of the big weapons programs started in the last decade, but authorizes few new ones, in line with the reduced threat from the Soviet Union. One sign of the new times as the Pentagon plans for a smaller military, only one new B-2 bomber will be built next year. Still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, the fight over the fate of former East German dictator Erich Honecker and home delivery of milk, an old idea whose time may be coming back.
Dean Witter believed in listening.
Listen, not only to what our clients say, but what they mean. Each client has a level of comfort. Endeavor to find it. We measure success one investor at a time.
Imagine a rent-a-car company that offers special delivery right to your door. That's Enterprise.
Here, let me help you.
Enterprise, a special rent-a-car company that gives you special delivery.
Dear Folgers, I run a bed and breakfast. When I overslept one morning, the Folgers switch saved my reputation. The percolator wasn't even set up, so I secretly switched Folgers Crystals for the brewed coffee I normally serve.
This is delicious.
Well, the taste and aroma must have fooled them, because they were shocked when I revealed the switch and joked about sounding like one of your restaurant commercials.
Folgers Crystals, proven with fresh brewed coffee drinkers.
Sincerely, Janet Turley.
Thank you. A kiss? No, I'm sorry. I don't think so.
Oh, no, please, no, baby, no.
Oh, not a good idea. Not now.
No, bad time.
Fight morning breath with Scope. Scope has two powerful ingredients that kill 90% of the bacteria that cause morning breath.
Your kiss is ready. Pucker up.
Right on the kisser.
Come on.
Kiss morning breath goodbye with Scope.
Give me that kiss.
A German magazine reports today that former East German leader Erich Honecker wants to leave the Soviet Union for Chile. The question of Honecker's future is casting a shadow over Russian President Yeltsin's visit to Germany. Anthony Mason now with more on that.
With pomp and ceremony this weekend, Boris Yeltsin and Helmut Kohl proudly promised cooperation between the new Russia and the new Germany. But for all the friendship agreements the two leaders signed, there is one diplomatic problem they have not been able to solve. A problem named Erich Honecker. The former leader of communist East Germany is now living in quiet exile outside of Moscow, and the Germans want him back. Architect of the Berlin Wall, Honecker stands accused of ordering the shoot-to-kill policy that led to some 200 deaths along the border between East and West. When communism collapsed, Gorbachev agreed to take in this loyalist soldier of the Cold War. But since the failed coup in August, the Germans have pressed the Soviets to reconsider. The response from Moscow has been yes and no, and sometimes both. As with a lot of questions here these days, the Soviets not only can't seem to decide, they can't decide who should decide. Yeltsin wants Honecker out of Russia, and the parliament has ordered him deported. But Gorbachev insists Honecker will have a home somewhere in the Soviet Union, if not in Russia itself. I see an old, sick man, he says. There's no need to drag this subject into world politics. But Eduard Shevardnadze, returning to Gorbachev's side this week as foreign minister, has found the issue won't go away.
It is there, and they keep talking a lot about it, and it is always raised when high officials of the two countries meet.
For the Soviets, there is more at stake than diplomacy. The Germans are by far their largest contributor of credits and aid, some $40 billion worth since 1989. but Honecker himself refuses to budge. The German embassy in Moscow has tried unsuccessfully to strike a deal with him. Outside its gates, every day, hundreds of Russians wait for a chance to go to Germany. But for the moment, Erich Honecker is staying right here. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Moscow.
In Tokyo, Defense Secretary Cheney met today with Japan's Prime Minister and other officials. They agreed to turn up the diplomatic pressure on North Korea to end its nuclear weapons program. Cheney reported as saying North Korea could have nuclear warheads by next year.
Chrysler announces the ultimate guarantee.
A plan that helps protect your new Dodge Caravan or Plymouth Voyager from the day you buy to the day you sell. It's your assurance of value when you buy, safety when you drive, security when you need it. A warranty choice no one else offers. Even guaranteed value when you trade. You can't do better than that. Call 1-800-92-MINIVAN and rediscover American value.
That's life.
You guys around next week? Not me. I'm off to State College on Saturday. You're still going? That's great. What about your dad's surgery? Yeah, the bills and stuff. No problem. He had some extra insurance to help pick up the bills.
Aflac Supplemental Insurance helps close the gaps in your health insurance, like deductibles and co-payments. Aflac lets life go right on, and that's the peace of mind you want. Aflac, insuring over 35 million people worldwide.
Grandma cleaned her dentures with toothpaste. Mom used a soak. I use the denture cleanser of the 90s. Fast-acting Denture Foam. Deep cleans like tablets, fast like toothpaste. To loosen food stains so you can quickly brush dentures clean. Get Denture Foam. It deep cleans fast.
Everybody needs some
$12 for every mile over the limit.
That's $300.
You can add fast, too. Next.
To send someone money fast, call 1-800-CALL-CASH or come to any Western Union location. Western Union, the fastest way to send money.
I'm Charles Kuralt. A singer from a small town in Arkansas becomes an opera superstar in Europe. Meet Barbara Hendricks this Sunday morning.
The Coast Guard said today it has picked up another 213 Haitian refugees in small boats. Haiti's deposed president urged Haitians to stay home and continue a peaceful resistance. The ousted leader is in Colombia trying to negotiate his return to office. Doug Tennell now with more on that.
Deposed Haitian President Jean-Bertrand Aristide is talking with a delegation of Haitian lawmakers about the shape of a possible compromise, power sharing that could lead to Aristide's reinstatement in return for an end to the economic embargo of Haiti. But while Haiti's politicians talk, its people have already decided not to wait for the results. In the treacherous straits off Haiti's coast, a whole new exodus is underway. More than 3,000 Haitians have been picked off tiny, waterlogged boats since the end of October. The Bush administration insists they must go back to Haiti, but federal courts have temporarily blocked forced repatriation, leaving thousands in limbo.
What do you do with people who are hungry, who are scared, that are fleeing from persecution? You do what America has always done, provide asylum.
But the State Department says the Haitians don't meet standard criteria for asylum, describing them as economic, not political refugees.
We do not have any evidence to date from our embassy personnel or from other relief organizations that operate there in Haiti of any types of fear and persecution.
Mr. Bush, you know what's going on in Haiti.
But at rallies in Miami's Little Haiti, people argued the exodus began with the ouster of a political leader and is likely to end when Aristide is returned to power. In a community that routinely welcomes Cuban boat people, some say the administration's policy toward Haitians smacks of racism.
Our own State Department has warned U.S. citizens not to travel there. We've taken out all non-emergency personnel, and yet we don't seem to have a problem with returning Haitians to that country. I mean, it's horrendous.
In the meantime, while U.S. policymakers decide their fate, more than 1,200 Haitians are living temporarily on board U.S. Coast Guard cutters. About 850 others are on U.S. Navy ships at sea, and more Haitians reach official limbo on U.S. vessels every day. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Miami.
Iraq and Britain made a deal today. Iraq freed British businessman Ian Richter after 6 years in jail on bribery charges. In return, Britain freed $110 million in frozen Iraqi assets for Iraq to buy food and medicine. With winter coming on, Iraq's Kurds are worse off than ever, and Barry Peterson has more on that.
They are so far away, so easily forgotten. These are the people who fought and then fled from Saddam Hussein in the days after the Gulf War. In remote villages and squalid refugee camps, they prepare for the unforgiving winter.
They'll freeze, they'll starve, they'll die of dysentery with polluted water. Some of them are drinking virtually raw sewage. You name ways to die, and they will die in these ways.
Harried UN officials insist supplies will get here in time. It won't be enough, says one British member of parliament, who came after the Gulf War and returned to investigate conditions now.
I feel enraged, I must say, that 6 months on, the international community has left refugees like this in these conditions.
All of this is made worse by the growing conviction among the Kurdish guerrillas, the Peshmerga, that Saddam Hussein is readying another major offensive. There is already shelling in remote areas. Men and boys, as many as 150,000 now, are training in the hills, massing for the bitter and bloody offensive all sides expect. Families are already fleeing, afraid of the terror they are sure will follow if Iraq again rules this area. Under Iraqi control, Kurdish men were lined up, their families forced to watch the executions. Or they were tortured in prisons, tied from hooks on the ceiling.
They put your hands in those hooks, one of those hooks in the back this way, and then they push away the table. Your shoulders begin giving you great pain.
For a moment after the Gulf War, the Kurds seized the conscience of the world for their bravery fighting Saddam Hussein, then for their hunger when they finally ran from his guns. Now, the Kurds fear it is a different time. The world is busy with new problems, and they are so far away, so easily forgotten. Barry Peterson, CBS News, London.
There are reports tonight that Syria is balking on attending next month's resumed peace talks in Washington. Arab sources say Syria now wants Israel to agree first to discuss giving up occupied territory. Neither Syria nor Israel has formally replied to U.S. invitations to the talks.
A lot of cars are taking aim at the imports these days. Well, one American car is very much on target. Buick. Here's their latest hit, the all-new 1992 Skylark. Completely redesigned with more power and advanced features like standard anti-lock brakes. Skylark for 1992. It's got everything you've been looking for, plus the one thing only Buick can offer you. Buick quality.
Our dentist gave us a reason to switch toothpaste.
Baking soda. He recommended it for healthier teeth and gums.
2 out of 3 dentists recommend baking soda for healthier teeth and gums.
And only one major toothpaste has it. Arm & Hammer Dental Care, the baking soda toothpaste with fluoride.
It leaves your whole mouth feeling clean.
So maybe you should switch to Arm & Hammer Dental Care too.
I mean, after all, it's got baking soda, recommended by 2 out of 3 dentists, and no other major toothpaste has it.
And try the fresh mint taste of Arm & Hammer Dental Care Gel.
Time after time, vintage clothing of Hollywood. Are you saving what you'd hoped since leaving AT&T? Claremont Riding Academy of New York. Are you waiting longer for calls to connect? We want you back. AT&T Pro Watts, a discount plan with very competitive prices. Switch now and get 1 month of long distance free. We want you back. Call 1-800-222-0400.
In a country struggling to forge a new identity, symbols can take on special significance. That is the case in South Africa, where citizens are deeply divided over a plan to abandon the emblems of a painful past. Alan Pizzi reports.
Galvanized by the chance to make the dream they thought was impossible come true, South African athletes are churning up the water, pounding out the miles, striving to be the first to represent their country at the Olympics in 30 years. But a raging controversy over what symbol they will compete under overshadows their efforts. The National Olympic Committee chose a so-called neutral banner instead of the South African flag. And Beethoven's Ode to Joy, not the white national anthem, will herald South Africa's re-entry into the Olympic arena. Whites want to wear the green and gold uniform with the springbok on it. The badge white South African athletes wore with proud defiance during all the years they were cast out from world competition.
To go not as a springbok wouldn't be the same, because you've been brought up with it so long. Now you'll be a springbok.
The trouble is, apartheid reserved springbok status for whites only, and the new order demands something different.
The present symbols are not representative of all the people of South Africa.
The issue has turned, as sport in South Africa invariably does, into a vicious political fight.
Because the governing party wants the symbols of apartheid to be retained.
The right wing went so far as to call the Olympic Committee's decision treason. State President F.W. de Klerk delivered an impassioned tirade against the Olympic Committee, an outburst that many felt cast doubt on his commitment to reform. Such is the tension that when black protesters tried to disrupt an international tennis tournament this week, white spectators took the law into their own hands. Opinion polls indicate that sports-mad South African whites are overwhelmingly against abandoning the springbok, even though its retention could keep their athletes out of the world's arenas. Even Ode to Joy won't placate their rage, because ultimately the fuss isn't about sport at all. It's about the eroding of those treasured white symbols and the admission of the reality of losing their long-held power and privilege. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Cape Town.
David Duke's defeat in the Louisiana governor's race last week may not be the last of it for David Duke. His big ambitions are the subject of Bruce Morton's commentary tonight.
David Duke ran for governor of Louisiana and got whomped, losing 61 to 39%, a landslide by any measure. Losing to former Governor Edwin Edwards, a man a lot of Louisianans can't stand. Once more, Duke ran 5 points worse than in his U.S. Senate race a year ago. So the logical morning after question might have been, why so much worse this time? The voters get to know you better, or what? Duke, however, held a news conference to announce that he was thinking about running for president as a Republican. That's like the 10-year-old who comes home from school and says, Mom, I flunked arithmetic, but don't worry, I've signed up for differential calculus next term. Mom wouldn't take the 10-year-old seriously, but a lot of the country looked at Duke and thought, sure, why ever not? He probably will run. It's what he does. 5 campaigns in the past 3 years for the Senate, for president on the populist ticket, primary and runoff for governor, and won his only victory for state representative. If batting 1 out of 5 doesn't qualify you for the White House, what does? He'll get some votes, too. He'll get the votes of genuine racists, and what's more, he'll get votes from people frightened by the economy, scared of losing their jobs. Duke blames all that on blacks, which is simple but wrong. Blacks lose their jobs, too. Last hired, first fired is their phrase. There are a lot of reasons why the U.S. economy is weaker compared to Europe and Japan than it used to be. Race isn't one of them. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
And a nuclear reactor at a South Carolina power plant was shut down and placed on alert for much of the day after a leak of radioactive water inside a containment building. The leak occurred at the Oconee nuclear plant near Seneca. Officials with the Duke Power Company say no radiation escaped from the plant and the alert status has been ended now. We have a correction to an item broadcast on last night's CBS Evening News. In a report on air travel, it was incorrectly stated that America West Airlines went out of business. In fact, America West is in business and flying daily.
We bake pearls made of denture material in this blueberry pie to prove how powerfully Efferdent, America's leading denture cleanser, removes this tough stain, even in between. Efferdent, stronger than stains.
Norelco says don't shave your legs, baby them with Norelco's incredibly close, comfortable shave that leaves you baby smooth, baby soft. Norelco Lady Shave Razors, dry or wet, we make close, comfortable.
For years, Pledge has kept our furniture beautiful. Well, now New Pledge does even more with a special dust-resistant formula called Dust Block. Now Pledge actually repels dust. 2 weeks ago, I polished the word Pledge into this table. Watch. New Pledge repels over half the dust I'd get just dry dusting. Pledge knows our lives are a lot busier these days, but with New Pledge, they're a little easier too.
New Pledge with Dust Block. It actually repels dust. From SC Johnson Wax.
The power of intelligent engineering is routinely put to the test at Oldsmobile. And here's the result. Of all the Cutlass Sierras ever sold in the last 10 years, we can say 96% are still on the road. Safely say. Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering.
Available now for $12,695 with Air and V6 engine.
And finally tonight, sometimes it seems like everything old is suddenly new again. Now Americans nostalgic for the good old days can have a piece of the past delivered to their door. Giselle Fernandez has our report.
Morning, Miss Baker.
Hi, Dan. You know, I really do need eggs.
Eggs? Sure.
It's an old-fashioned service that's making a comeback. The milkman is returning to doorsteps all across the country.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.
In Summit, New Jersey, Dan Vendetti now serves 600 households.
My children love when Dan comes to the door. We call him Smiling Dan.
There are a lot of people that really depend on it.
And processing plants like Welsh Farms are depending on the milkman to help boost sluggish sales, particularly now, at a time when milk consumption across the nation is at a record low and production costs at a record high.
What we've been trying to do is recruit new milkmen. Home delivery for us as a business has been double-digit increases over the past 3 or 4 years.
It may have meant double-digit increases for Welsh Farms, but nationwide, home delivery amounts to less than 1% of milk sales. Home-delivered milk was once a universal commodity, but convenience stores and mega supermarkets put most of the milkmen out of business.
Many of the companies had discontinued home delivery routes because the volume was relatively low and because it was scattered households.
But no more. People like the bakers with 2 children at home are willing to pay up to 30 cents more a gallon for the convenience, as well as the nostalgia.
I remember we had milk delivered when I was young, and it is a nice little slice of America.
And that touch of old America is exactly why Welsh Farms is churning out more milkmen to try and stay one step ahead of an industry-wide recession. Giselle Fernandez, CBS News, Long Valley, New Jersey.
And that's the news. We'll see you again tomorrow on Face the Nation when our guest will be Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir of Israel. Hope you can join us. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News in New York. Good night.
Overbooked. We have to get home. Emmitt Smith and the Cowboys are playing the undefeated Redskins.
You're really handling this with dignity, Frank.
This is CBS.
Coming up, investigators find out why a Queens home turned into a raging inferno, but relatives of the victims find no comfort in the explanation. Also, a nuclear scare at a power plant down south sends hundreds of people running.
Also tonight, the Eye of the Beholder, a money-making exhibit draws the attention of hundreds, but is it art or pornography? Plus, Hollywood stars use their golden touch to reward the fight for freedom. And a rock star makes a difficult admission about his private life. Next.
If you're looking for a way to beat those old cars.